Hi, I'm Rachel. Welcome to Life on Purpose. I invite you to join in on this journey to live a life of deep meaning and intention. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Life on Purpose podcast. I'm Rachel, and this is something really exciting because this is kind of the first collaboration episode that I've ever had where I have more than one guest, and this is going to be so much fun. I am so excited. So let me introduce you to our guests today. First of all, let me tell you where you can find them, just because I feel like I forget that. And so I wanted to start with them. They are at DIYholisticsolutions.com. And I want to welcome Jennah and Jen. Isn't that perfect? Jennah and Jen. I will not forget either of their names. And I'm so grateful to welcome them today to this podcast. And let me introduce them. And then we're going to get into talking about solutions for you and for your loved ones. And I'm so excited. So this is about Jennah. And really, we were talking about this. Jennah and I are not old friends. We are longtime friends. There's a difference, right?
There's a difference. Happy to be your longtime friend.
Yes. And so I remember when your kids were little and my kids were little, we were going through the motherhood trenches together and had so much fun. And I just am amazed at how our families have grown up. And I love that we've been able to stay in touch for so long. And so I'm so
me
grateful.
too. Great memories together.
Yes. So, Jennah has been interested in finding holistic and natural solutions for over 20 years. Her mom really loved herbs and natural healing, and she passed on that love of learning. In college, Jennah gained a degree in biology and also a love of learning about the human body, specifically how to heal it. And while in school, life led her to her biggest adventure of her life, marriage and a family. And Dave and Jennah have 6 wonderful children. They're so wonderful. And while raising kids, Jennah became a certified foot zone therapist and spent years learning about how to grow and use herbs. These skills have blessed her family in countless ways, and now she's put together a list of courses with Jen, and that she wishes she had access to 20 years ago. Isn't that amazing how the things that are most powerful, we're thinking like, man, I wish I would have had something like this.
Yes, that's exactly what drives us to keep putting together like new courses. We're like, this is something that we wish we had when we were raising our kids.
Yes. Oh, I think that that's so wonderful. And let me introduce you to Jen as well. She loves adventure. And Jen, I can really relate to so many things I feel like we almost have parallel lives because I'll tell you in a minute. Okay. She's a homeschool mom, former Air Force wife, and wanderer at heart. Her husband, Marshall, and Jen are the parents of 6 children and 2 grandchildren. And they love their life in the Air Force and seeing different parts of the country. And when you combine that with almost 25 years of homeschool, you can understand the huge adventure that their family's on. And I can relate to that as a former military spouse and also raised in the military. That wandering heart, that gypsy life heart. I get that.
It really just gets in your blood, doesn't it?
It sort of does. And sometimes I have even felt like, okay, no, I'm settled here. I'm gonna do things to keep myself busy that keep me here. And yeah, it's I think my next home will just be a van. That's what I think. But we had a stint in Europe where I'm not going to call it homeschooling because it was not. My children say it was very much online school, but what a wonderful time it was to be in a different place, a different culture. And so I really appreciate that about you, that you had that intention to bring adventure to your family while you were also educating them. And wow, what a really awesome experience I'm sure that was for your family. So I'm excited to hear more about all of that. Let's see, where am I? Jen loves learning new things and especially principles of natural law, and that led to her adventures into holistic healing methods. She truly believes that God created our bodies and He provides things for us to heal and stay healthy. She's worked with herbs, essential oils, food as medicine, and energy clearing, and she loves knowing what to do when someone in her house gets sick. And with her own autoimmunity has led her to even more adventures as she's turned to others and continued to learn about things like reflexology, tinctures, and acupressure. She loves to travel, and this holistic healing knowledge came in very handy during those years. I love this term when they road schooled around the country. That's a new term, road schooled. I love it though. I think that that's paints a beautiful picture of your life. So thank you both for being here. I love these topics and I'm excited to talk to you. So first, Jennah, I wanted to start with you because you mentioned your mom, and my heart has just been with you for, I know it's been a while since your mom passed, but I know you spent quite a bit of time caring for her and being with her. And as you were growing up and you saw her and the way she interacted with the earth and what she knew and what she loved, what did you really take away from that learning?
Well, first of all, thank you again so much for having us on your podcast. We're really excited to be here. And yeah, so my mom really instilled this love of natural, like herbs. And I remember taking classes with her in high school, and she'd let me tag along. They were for her. And then she'd invite us kids to go. And usually it was just me. I was the one that was interested in going and learning. And I remember when I left for college, the summer I turned 18, I took a whole bunch of little herb packets with me because we would make teas and stuff when we were sick. And I thought, okay, I need my little peppermint and I need my, all these little herbs. And I went to college and I was so busy, I never even used them. It was such a time of learning and not sleeping very much and, the college life. So I did natural things, but I never used this little packet of herbs. I didn't do it like my mom did, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until I started having kids that I went back to that. I'm like, okay, now I have more cause to use these and try to figure them out. At one point, my oldest had an ear infection, and we went in for antibiotics. And well, we went in to see what was wrong, and of course, he gave us antibiotics, and we gave them to my son, and it didn't work. And so I took him back in and he gave him another round of antibiotics. And I was just being a good little first time mom, and I gave him another round of antibiotics. And he ended up with a diaper rash that was bleeding and sore. And the doctor told me that it was a yeast infection because he had been on so many antibiotics. It had really messed with his gut biome, but the ear infection still didn't go away. And he gave me a third round of antibiotics and I didn't feel it. I called my mom, which I probably should have done way sooner, but we lived, kind of far apart, and I was just like doing the good thing. And she said, okay, here's some things you can do. Do you have GSE? I'm like, yes, I do. Do you have this? No, I don't. But there's a health food store in town. So I got what I needed and I started giving it to him. And within a few days, things had cleared up and he was feeling a lot better. And for me, that was like all these things that my mom had introduced me to, I could start to put them into practice. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. There are different methods that we can use. And so kind of messed with those over the years and practiced and learned more as I've used more methods on my kids. And then you're right, I ended up taking care of my mom. She got dementia. We were living in Colorado at the time, which is where you and I knew each other, and we were Air Force there, and she she needed my dad needed help. He hadn't retired yet, and we decided it was God calling us to come back to Utah and take care of my mom. And so we did. And she was very physically healthy because of the way that she had lived her lifestyle. Unfortunately, she was getting dementia, which was really, really hard. Me and my kids were able to step in and help take care of her. And I wish there were more for dementia. I'm researching that and working on some a tincture, another tincture for brain health, and just really trying to find the herbs that work the best. I know there's a lot of research into that right now. But because of how healthy she was physically healthy throughout almost her entire time as her mind was declining. And we could really help that. We did put her on some prescriptions a couple times and it flatlined her personality. It's like she wasn't even there. And my dad and I said, we'd rather have quality of life while she's here. And so anyway, it was a really beautiful, wonderful experience for me and my children to be able to care for my mom. And it was hard, but we gained a lot of compassion. It was really fun to see my kids gain that compassion, taking care of someone who needed it. And I know you know that you've done that a lot yourself, caring for other people, close people to you. So
Yeah.
yeah, and we've stayed here ever since. She passed away 5 years ago, and we've just stayed here in Utah and started our little farm and just now trying to get the word out about holistic ways to do things. So,
Yes. And I do want to give a plug for your farm because this is not a little thing you're doing. Can you just tell us like a little bit about your farm and how like what you're the cool things you're doing on your farm?
yeah, we just have it's called a small farm. You know, that's like the term that's out there. And is that what you're calling yours too? A
Yeah.
small farm?
That's
Yeah, something
fun.
like that. Anyway, we have a little market garden, and it's a CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And people can decide to join by purchasing a subscription. We've opened up volunteer hours this year so people can come work on the farm, kind of that work for food type of deal. But they can learn what we're doing and get their hands in the dirt and get the benefits of just being outside and working hard. It just feels really good to get out and know where your food is coming from. And so that's our goal, to bring more awareness to the community. And those who've participated have really loved it. We use permaculture principles and try to do things all naturally. And so that's been our little my husband and I, it's been our project for the last few years. So we're building that as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so, so cool.
Well,
So
and as someone who does not have a green thumb, which I don't have, I appreciate their farm. We've been able to be a member of their CSA since they started, and man, I just love getting boxes of produce, and we were able to go and help out. And I handle it when she says, go weed this row or go do this. But man, when it comes to growing things, I'm awful at it. So I appreciate Jennah's green thumb and that she's willing to share with those of us who don't have that.
You know,
you
we're
know,
here for you wanderers, you know?
yes. Who is going to plant the seeds for the next season when you have people who are just like, I'm only here for a minute?
Right.
It's true. It's true.
That is so great. I love, Jen, that you've had personal experience with their farm because I have not been out there personally. I've just been seeing online the growth and it wasn't before like a co-op type thing. You were just kind of growing and so I love what it's become. I love your purpose in that. I want to go back to a couple of things because I've had this same experience where um specifically with essential oils where I had a daughter who kept getting strep and we used essential oil. She was in such pain. I'm like, here, like swallow this. And I took her to urgent care, right? By the time we got there, it was gone. Like I could see it, like with my little flashlight when we were at home. And to me, that was like, for her, that was huge. And so anytime she gets sick, she's like, Mom, send me some stuff, right? Because
Amazing.
when you've had experiences, then you are like, it's easier sometimes to just go to maybe the more I don't know, traditional, I don't know, whatever it is, like acceptable ways that people just think of. Maybe I should say like the mainstream ways that we see from TV right? Like those ways that people are like, oh, here's an instant thing, like that's gonna take care of your symptoms. Um, but like sometimes that's almost the easy fix rather than having the awareness, having the patience to work with our body. One thing I loved the word you used, awareness, because that's the word I thought of when you were talking about coming up with things that can help with more brain function. And because I do believe there are answers out there, I do believe our bodies were meant to function properly. And as we raise our awareness of, I wonder what could help with that. And so I really appreciate that you are working on that and aware of that, because that's going to help so many people.
Yeah, I love how you use the word instant fix. Like we're all looking for that really quick fix, right? And a lot of the pharmaceuticals that you can get are the quick fixes, and they might work quickly as a band-aid on something, but as far as getting to the root cause and actually healing the issue, they're usually not doing that. So it does take patience. The natural way takes a lot more patience, which you can really relate to growing things on a farm, right? Because you put corn in way back in June and you're not expecting to eat any corn until August or September, right? So there's patience, there's weeding, there's watering, there's fertilizing it and giving it what it needs in order to grow. And then you get that awesome ear of corn that everybody craves, in the late summer. Well, it's a lot like our health. We've got to have that patience. And when you do, you're able to get to the root cause of what's going on.
Oh, awesome. So, Jen, let me ask you about your journey. In the intro, we talked a little bit about your own autoimmune experiences and helping your family. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I love that people have shared information with me. And that's really where it started. I don't have a background at all in holistic anything. And we were just very traditional. You get sick, you go to the doctor. But jumping into the homeschool community, I started hearing words, like essential oils or, things like that, that I'm like, what is that? And, you start going to these moms' night outs and you start learning these things, and it's so great. And right in the beginning, I had just been to a class on essential oils, one of my very first ones years ago. And within a couple of weeks, my husband was really sick and he swelled up. His joints were really swollen. He had a lot of inflammation. We didn't really know what was wrong. And so after about a week of this going on, we're like, okay, something's up. So he went into the doctor, and the doctor did his thing and said, well, you have a systemic strep infection and there's nothing we can do about it. So it will run its course in 6 months. And this was my, mid-30s husband, who was so athletic and so strong, who was waddling around like a 90-year-old man. Like he couldn't function. He couldn't wear shoes because his feet were so swollen. He's like I go to work and kick my shoes off. Like this is like, I cannot keep doing this. And so 6 more months just sounded like an eternity. And so I got home and I called up the woman who had just taught the essential oils class. And I said, here's what we have going on. What do you suggest? And she said, take this oil, take this oil, take this oil, do one in the morning, one at lunch, one in the evening. Within a week, he was 100% better. And I was sold at that point. I was absolutely sold that there were other things that we could do. And just started diving in. But you know how that goes. You kind of take these deep dives and you start to learn. But I really appreciated people sharing what they had already learned with me and kind of shortening that time frame, shortening that little gap a little bit. And that's what we're hoping to do, is shorten that gap for people. But then as time went on, I started having my own health issues. And I kind of blame that on just not taking care of myself. That's I think my message to moms is, yes, you have to take care of your family, but you also have to take care of yourself. When you don't do that, you hurt yourself in the long run. And so I have several autoimmune diseases that I'm always trying to get my handle on, and am getting my handle on. That's the beauty of it, is I am getting better and better every day and finding new ways to treat things, and just really love the deep dive into the learning, and then trying things and seeing how well they work. The newest thing I just got, which I think my husband thought was a little nutso. I mean, he's been married to me a really long time, so not much surprises him anymore. But I got a grounding mat that we put on our bed. And that has helped so much. I've had it on my bed now about 2 weeks, and I'm not in as much pain in the morning when I wake up. I'm not in excruciating pain just rolling over in the middle of the night. And it has been awesome. I'm like, okay, we just one step at a time, and I find solutions, and then I just love sharing them with people.
So I really appreciate you sharing that. Uh, because a couple of things in there is that you have to be consistent with these holistic remedies and with these whole it's almost like has to become the lifestyle, kind of like when you were talking about your husband. It's like you have to do this like consistently to it's not just take this pill and you're healed. It's like no, let your body heal, let it process what is going on, right? And I love the grounding. I am very open to all of these kinds of healing because I think there is so much available and I was not brought up with some of these ideas, but I know Jenna and I had a, similar pathway of like the emotion code, the body code, learning about that, learning about how our bodies are giving us messages. And that's all they're doing. They're not broken. They're not meant to be, a problem at all. And so I'm a believer in the grounding, but again, I've noticed that it has to be kind of part of a lifestyle. It's not like you can just put your feet on the earth, for 10 minutes one day and think that that's it. It almost has to be incorporated into, how you're living your life, right?
That is so true. And my personality, it's funny because Jenna is probably laughing at me. So often she'll be like, how's that tincture working out for you? And I'm like, well, I took it twice last month, you know, so I'm not really seeing any results. And she's like, you have to be consistent. She's like, you go home and set an alarm on your phone to take your tinctures every day. But my personality is I want a quick fix and I want it now, just like that. And it's been just so much learning, and that slow and steady truly wins the race, and diligence and consistency and just really doing those things. And so I am taking my tinctures every day now, and they are helping.
Yes. And, some people might say to all of us in this realm, like, well, what if it's just your brain? Like your brain, like, is thinking that these things are working and so they do. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't care. I don't, you know what? If it's my brain thinking that these oils or this practice or this healing is working, who cares, right? It's better than a something that has a long list of side effects. And I have gone through periods of time where I have been on antidepressants or even on a thyroid medication. And I want, like, in my life right now, I am free from medication, and that's the way I want to stay. And so, yeah, I love that, Jenna, that you're like, take it consistently, But I think you kind of spoke to the point of like, if our child was on a medication or had a thing that we wanted them to do to get healthy, we would consistently do that. We would say, oh, it's 10 o'clock, time to rub your feet, time to do the thing, whatever, right? Time to be outside. But for us, where does that go sometimes as the
You
mom or the wife?
We
know,
forget a lot, right? Getting caught up in taking care of everybody else. But that's one thing too that I just want to point out really quick is that we're not anti-mainstream medicine at all. We just feel like it's very much a tool that we have in our tool belt, along with all of these other tools that we can pick and choose when we need to. Because sometimes we do have to go into the doctor, or take our kids into the doctor. Like sometimes that's just life. My son had RSV when he was a toddler, and we weren't fixing that one on our own. He ended up in the ICU, and But just knowing that I have so many tools, I don't just have that one tool to go to every time. I have so many tools. And I just love having that tool belt full of tools.
Oh, Jen, thank you for saying that because you are right. That thyroid medication helped me function at
Mhm.
a time when I was absolutely unfunctional. And what it did for me, but I think in my mind, I hear the voices of like, well, you're just kind of at that age, it just kind of happens. Or yeah, this is like you'll just be on this the rest of your life, and kind of accepting it instead of like, okay, this is a pathway to like get me to where I can make it through the day. And that's what my personal experience is, and it's probably very different for other people. And there are probably lots of people who do need that for their whole life, and bless your soul, I hope it helps you. But do we also kind of have the programming sometimes where we just think, oh, this is just, I'm just getting older and this is my life. But for me, I was so grateful for it to get me to a point where I could function during the day. And then I really needed to think about what it was telling me, and what I needed to do to take care of myself. And if I wanted to believe that this was just the way it is, which I didn't want to. So thank you for pointing that out, Jen, that it is, really important. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and I'm not wanting to believe that. I'm not ready to believe that this is just what happens because I'm this age. Like I get up every morning and it's like, okay, the choices I make today determine what my tomorrow looks like and what my next month looks like. And the choices I made in my 20s are affecting me now in my 40s, but it doesn't mean it's too late. It means that I can start today and make a choice right now that will then affect me in the future. And that has been a big mindset shift for me. And a lot, health problems are one thing, mindset things are a whole other deal, but man, did they ever work together. They all work together in our holistic healing.
As we're talking about this, Jenna, what things are going through your mind as Jen and I have kind of talked about some of these topics?
I've had so many thoughts, and I think most of them I've already forgotten. But I'm like, yes, yes, everything you're both saying, yes. Here, I think it's amazing that you got the medication you needed when you needed it, and that you've been able to get off it. Because when a prescription is given, it is usually with the intention that you will be on it for the rest of your life, unless it's like an antibiotic or something that runs its course, right? But as far as thyroid medication or blood pressure medication or something for high blood sugar, right? It's meant to be taken for the rest of your life. Even depression medication, most doctors are pretty much like, yep, this is what you're going to be on, and they change it up every few years so that it keeps working for you. And so the steps to get off that sometimes are scary. And as you heal your body, that can happen. And it's been really fun to be a foot zone therapist and have people come in here thinking, okay, what is this? Is it really going to help me? And the foot zone is great. But what's really cool is that I get all these hours, it's about an hour long, and we can sit and have a conversation. And I get people talking to me about all the things they're on and all their issues. And so I might give them a few things to go work on, like consider doing this. Maybe it's more water, maybe it's better breathing, maybe it's getting in the sunshine and connecting to the earth. And so I try to give people things where they're at and that they'll actually be able to go do, start with some basics. And when they start working, to see the transition that people are, and that they have one foot over here in the traditional medicine world and one foot over here in natural, and they're like, well, I'm afraid to let go of this, but this is kind of working. And so I've seen a lot of people transition over. And I'm not a doctor. I can't and never will tell people to get on or off a medication or do something, but I can offer suggestions and things that have worked for me. And actually, there's a lot of studies about herbs and natural things now, which we're really blessed to have access to with the internet. So we can look up these studies and see that, yeah, wow, oregano is really fantastic at killing mold and fungus and bacteria and viruses. And, like there's a lot of studies out there now. So it's fun to see people take that transition, from traditional to maybe more natural, and see that it really can work. And they can work with their doctor and kind of get off those medications that they were supposed to be on forever. And you know what? Maybe you do, and maybe you don't have to.
Yes. I think it's just even like the question of what could be possible? Is it possible to overcome this ailment, or is it possible to live a better life? And I think as people are open to that and like open their mind to would that be possible, and not just have a closed mind to, this is just the way it is, but know that through it's a multitude. It's like I was saying, like almost like a lifestyle that things can change. So I want you guys to talk more about your approach to healing. You center your focuses around food, supplements, movement, and mindset. So I would love for you guys to talk more about those, because it's not just about one thing, like you can't just say, okay, well, replace this medication with this, little concoction I'm going to make up for you. So tell me more about those.
Do you want me to just jump in with food?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or do you
Well,
want to
before
start?
you just jump in, yes, you jump in with food. But I want to say within each of those, and Rachel, you've brought up mindset a few times. And I was going to say that's one of our pillars, because the mind is so powerful in our healing process. But we'll get there. Within each of those 4 pillars, we have notice, learn, and do. So we learn to notice. We we learn to notice, and then we learn what to do when we notice symptoms happening, and then we actually have to follow through and do them. So anyway, Jen, yeah, jump in.
I have just always loved the quote by Hippocrates, let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine. And I remember when I first read that, and it was like this huge light bulb just went off. Like, that is how it's supposed to be. Like, God has given us all of these amazing foods. And that if we use them in the right ways, they will fix our bodies, they will heal our bodies, they will nourish our bodies. And if we're using them in the right ways, maybe we won't need to be fixed later on, right? But I'm a foodie and I like my sugar and my fats and my carbs just as much as anybody else. And so I do a lot of the please let these foods heal me now that I've not taken care of myself. But so much can be learned. I know it's funny, we'll say to people, you need to be getting grains into your diet. And they go, well, yeah, I just had a peanut butter jelly sandwich for lunch. We're like, no, 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 no. That's not the kind of grains we're talking about. We're talking about the whole grains and soaking them and fermenting them and sprouting them and using a whole variety of foods and getting those nourishing healing foods in, and then just the plethora of fruits and vegetables that we can either obtain that are grown locally, or we live in a wonderful world where we can get almost any food anytime at the grocery store, which is so wonderful. And so just eating that wide variety of colors of food all the time and getting in those greens and learning that a salad isn't iceberg lettuce with a couple of carrot shreds and a tomato, covered in ranch dressing. A salad can be these beautiful greens full of all of these garden vegetables, and it can be a complete meal in and of itself when all the right components are in it. That was just so eye-opening for me to learn about salads, and introducing those into my life. And so our first pillar is food. Like, let's look at what's going on, and then let's look at the foods that support either that organ system or that, like, how are you eating? How are you eating? And let's take some baby steps to help you incorporate more whole grains, incorporate more fruits and vegetables. It's hard to say, well, get rid of all the junk. You have to have something to replace it with. So, if my kids come in the afternoon and say, hey, we want a snack, where are the cookies? And I'm like, no, 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 we're not having cookies. Have an apple instead. Instead of just saying no to the cookies, I have to replace it with something else. And I think we have to do that even to ourselves as adults. I know, don't tell me I can't have something or I really want it. But if you offer me something instead, then I'll maybe take you up on that. So foods is really where we start. And in a perfect world, we would get all of the nutrition and all the vitamins and minerals and everything we need from the food that grows in our ground. But we know this isn't a perfect world and our soil isn't always nutritionally dense. And so that's really where our next pillar of supplements come in, is that sometimes we do really have to supplement outside of what we can just get from eating our whole grains and our produce.
Okay, before we go on to supplements, because I want to talk more about that, can you give me an example of what is an example of a food that would support like a system in your body?
Do you want to take that
So,
one?
sure. Okay. In traditional Chinese medicine, there are 5 elements. There's fire, water, earth, wood, and metal. And within each of those elements is well, all of the major systems of our body are covered in those elements. Okay. So in the fire element is going to be the heart and the small intestine. And those are active in the early spring, well, starting in April, May, June, and July. So for 4 months, the fire element is active. And so we would eat foods to support the heart in April because the fire element is active. And so barley is an amazing grain for the heart, one that's very rarely used in our society. We're such a wheat, rice, and oats heavy society, which are all good, you know, but who's ever thought about using barley? And there's different ways you can use barley. You can make barley water, you can make barley tea, you can cook barley just like you cook rice. Well, also in April, there's a lot of really cool things starting to grow, mint and all the greens, the early greens that are coming up. So every month, you're also eating what's in season where you're at to help support the system that's revitalizing and renewing in your body. So let's talk about right now. We are in July, pretty much, right? So July is July is when our triple warmer is active. The triple warmer is thyroid, pituitary, and adrenals. So they're your endocrine system, and your endocrine system is all about your hormones. And so there's a certain food that's really, really good for hormones. And this month that happens to be sesame seed. And it's high in omega-3s. Our hormones need those healthy fats and oils in order to function. They have to have it, right? So when we talk about healthy fats, a lot of times olive oil comes up and coconut oil and avocado oil, and all those are really good too. But sesame is that whole food and full of those oils. So any way you can get a couple tablespoons a day of sesame in your diet is really going to help renew and revitalize that system. And for every month of the year, there is a system that your body's revitalizing. So if we can eat the right foods to support it, then it's going to help that system for the entire year. And on the flip side, if say you have issues with your heart, but it's October, you'd be like, oh, well, the heart is in April. So what are those foods that I should be eating to support my heart? And you'd go back and look and see what you can do to support the heart any time of year. So.
Oh my goodness, my brain is like blown. I've never even heard this before. I am so excited. This is awesome. Wow.
Yeah, this is fun stuff. We've learned a lot from Dr. Susie Schultz. She did a year-long class at my home. We gathered a bunch of people. She has been an acupuncturist and a chiropractor for 40 years. She's 80. She's incredible and just full of knowledge and information. And Jen came to the class and we just gathered information. And she said, I want this information to get out there. I want people to know it, but I'm toward the end of my life. But she's like, it's working. It works for people. And she says that, but honestly, she's super healthy. She still sees clients. She's 80 years old and just doing incredible. So we have kind of created this system based on what she taught us and added some of our own knowledge. And she's just like cheering us on. And so anyway, it's been kind of fun. Yeah.
That is beautiful. I love that. So, okay, what I'm hearing you say is like, even if I was just going to like eat all the same things and just add in something to support the system that is active during that time, that even that would make a difference because I feel like sometimes like, okay, this is how I am, all or nothing, right? Like, okay, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to eat all the whole foods. I'm going to eat the quinoa because I know what it is. I can't believe some people don't even know what that is. And
Yes.
and so, I know what to do. But then the minute I go to a gathering and there's like the brownies there, I'm like, whatever, right? And
Mhm.
so I love that idea of like, oh, mint is right now, and it's something that could support my system. And this is the right time of year for that. How can I add that in? Or how could I add in the barley and not I don't have to change everything to make a difference.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
exactly. Those local, fresh, raw foods that are growing right now, plus, a grain that will really support that system. If you can just incorporate those, they're going to help support the system. And as far as the brownies go, we we like to talk about the 80-20 rule. Like
Ah, yes.
80% of the time, if you're eating, really well and doing your best, then at that family gathering, when there's a brownie, you're like, okay, I can have a brownie. I don't have brownies every day. I don't do this all the
Mhm.
time. I'm going to enjoy the occasion and I'm not going to beat myself up and, you know, have to start all over or just be like, now I can eat like garbage all week long because
Yeah.
I failed already anyway.
Yeah.
Well, and
Oh, that is so good.
we don't eat a lot different with this method. We're still eating a lot of the same things, but if it's like, okay, well, we're having this big, taco salad for dinner, instead of cooking rice to go in it, if it's barley month, I'll just cook barley instead. It cooks up just like rice. Or if it's buckwheat month, I'll just cook the buckwheat instead. So we're still eating a lot of our same healthy meals that we've always eaten. It's just, we just pick our carb differently. It's like, okay, what's our grade of choice this month? And because it's sesame right now, I just have my big mason jar full of sesame seeds sitting on the counter, and we just put it on everything. Whatever we're having, we just sprinkle it in, and that's how we get enough of it.
Genius. There is so much wisdom available. And imagine it like, yeah, it originated in one part of the world. And imagine if we didn't have access to that. And that is so cool. I think that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing about your food pillar. So let's move on to supplements. You mentioned it a little bit about how we're not necessarily getting the nutrients that our body needs. Do you have like some specific suggestions that you think like in general people should be getting more of?
That's a tough one because everybody's going to be different.
Mm,
With supplements, if you're eating really well and you're eating really well, you're like, food, I've got that down, right? And then you're still tired and you're like, it's just, this isn't cutting it. Then you can include supplements. Of course, you can include supplements anytime. But the thing is, we want food to be the medicine, right? So that's the big pillar. But supplements can be so, so helpful. A lot of things for women specifically, we are low in magnesium, we're low in B vitamins, we are low in zinc. Um, like more than 50% of the population is low in these things. Another big one is vitamin D. So most people who are having issues, we're going to start with those basics. The hormones can't function well without those B vitamins. Your body can't absorb iron well without those B vitamins. So a really nice, solid, whole food based vitamin B complex is what I suggest to a lot of people to start with. Also, when you get a blood test and have your magnesium tested, it might say that your magnesium levels are normal, but most of your magnesium is stored in your bones and in your tissues, not in your blood. So it's actually not a super accurate test. And most of us are quite deficient in magnesium. And you know what's really cool? I mean, you can get great magnesium supplements, and we do. I use a magnesium powder once in a while just to keep that up. But dark chocolate's high in magnesium. So it's
yes.
like a health food? That's great.
Anytime we can use chocolate as a supplement, I am all in.
Yeah.
That's the best news.
Yeah. So just make those brownies dark chocolate.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Wow. That's really fascinating.
Well, it's so easy to get overwhelmed too. If you're like, okay, I know I need this supplement. You walk into the health food store and there's an entire rack of whatever it is, vitamin C or whatever it is you're looking for. And most of them honestly are synthetically made, which honestly, that's not helping us. And so we always want to look for a whole food supplement, which means they're taking the whole food. Like I have to take iron, and actually I don't. I used to have to take iron. That's another story, I guess. But I now get my iron through microgreens and sprouts. But we always just want to look for the whole food supplement, because taking that small constituent out and then putting in a supplement as iron isn't supporting our body nutritionally. It's not supporting our whole body. It's just giving it that little piece. But anytime we can get the whole food, it's supporting us all the way around, because all of those constituents work together to support each other. And so that's just one thing. If you're looking for a supplement, make sure it's a whole food supplement.
Oh, wow. That's really good to know. Yeah, I feel like I'm one of those who's like totally overwhelmed by those kind of things. And yeah, just grab like the one that looks the best. I don't know. The best packaging, that's their job, right? Is
They
to
sell
like,
it.
hey, that looks healthy. So are people looking for the words on the bottle of like whole food supplement?
Yeah, it typically will say that. It will say this is a
Okay.
whole food supplement. And so they're pretty clear on their labeling.
Okay.
But one of
Good.
the big things that we include with our supplements is just herbs. Like we get so much, which, that can really be a food, it could really be a supplement, but we use it more of a supplement, I guess. We're not maybe going to go gather a whole bunch of herbs and eat it as a salad. Maybe we'll put a few in our salad, but there's a lot of really great ways that we can utilize those herbs as whole food supplements.
Wow.
Yeah, one of those ways that we've utilized a lot the last couple of years is tincture making. We do through tinctures. We take the herbs, which are whole foods, and soak them in an alcoholic solution, or you can use apple cider vinegar, and we pull out those constituents that make it such a healing powerhouse, and we create an herbal supplement that is whole food based. So we really love tinctures. We're actually working on putting out an online tincture making course, which is in the works and should be ready pretty soon.
Wonderful.
And
Okay.
I'm a lover of herbal tea, but some of them are just gross. And that would be a lot. I would be drinking so much gross tea to get the benefit of just a little dropper or two of the tincture, because it's so concentrated. And we've just had amazing results at our house with the tinctures, and our friends have had amazing results. And like, we just can't say enough about the tinctures. It really is the most powerful and potent way to use herbs.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like that's something I don't know very much about. And so I'm excited to learn more about that. I'm excited you're putting together a course. That's so cool. Well, let's talk about the other two pillars, movement and mindset.
Okay, so I'll jump in with movement here. Of course, like you said, we can't just focus on food or supplements, and we can't just focus on movement or mindset either. Really, this is a holistic approach. So we've got to include the movement, and we know that everybody's at a different level when it comes to physical movement. And we know what, doctors and nutritionists and lots of people have told us, 30 minutes of cardio a day for at least 4 days a week, or, whatever it is. It's always slightly changing, but we know we're supposed to be doing cardio, and we know we're supposed to be doing some strength training. And it's like, that can be confusing too. When do I do cardio or strength training? And maybe you'll get onto a program and then that'll crash. And it feels like it should be all or nothing as far as movement goes. So for each month, when we talk about like what food you should be eating, we talk about the best exercise that's also going to support that system of the body. So it is kind of cyclical. I think there's lots of really good ways to exercise. I don't think there's just one right way, but we include movement in all of our monthly classes. And There's a really cool, this is kind of a side note. We're talking about a cycle for a year, where I told you like April was for the heart and July is for the endocrine system. Well, women live in a smaller cycle with our monthly cycles. So there's a different way to move within each month. And we talk about that in our courses. So when you're actually bleeding, when you're on your period, you would want to move less. And it's okay to do yoga or slow or have a nap or have slower movement. And then after that, you start to your hormones start to rise, and so your energy starts to rise. And cardio feels really good for like a week and a half. And then you kind of transition into a long sustained energy when strength training really actually supports your hormones and your body. And so that also is this mini cycle every single month. Men is a little bit different. They've got their circadian rhythm, which we all have, and that's really their only rhythm. So, the one I just described for women is called an infradian rhythm. But for men, they're good to like be like, okay, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are my cardio days, and Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are my weight training days, and they can sustain that for longer, and it supports them, and it feels good to them. So, if you've got adrenal fatigue issues or things like that, you're going to want to exercise a lot easier, so that you don't wipe yourself out. So that's why, and part of our program is a coaching program so that we can take people individually and help them learn to exercise for what is going on with their system.
Outstanding. That's awesome. Beautiful. And what about your mindset?
We can be doing everything as perfectly as we can in all three of those other things: food, supplements, movement, and still feel down sometimes. Just be in a mood or maybe get cranky. And that's mindset is such an integral part, because if we're not working on our emotions and our mental health, all the rest of it just doesn't quite give us the optimal health we're looking for. And so I remember I used to just like, we all get cranky sometimes. And I just remember just be like, well, deal with it, family. Once I've slept it off, I'll be fine tomorrow. Well, too bad it's 9 in the morning. I'm just going to be cranky the rest of the day, right? But that doesn't have to be the case. Like, there's so many things we can do. It's just like going up to our thermostat in our house and adjusting the temperature for a little too hot or a little too cold. If we're feeling a little cranky or we're feeling a little depressed or whatever the emotion is that we're feeling that we don't want to be feeling, we can adjust it through such simple tools sometimes. And of course, I'm not talking about the people who, like really need to be, they really need the clinical help. We're talking about just those times when we just don't feel right. And, putting on a happy song and dancing around will shift that mood. Or just talking to ourselves. Like we call it talking myself off a cliff, sometimes. But honestly, that's just evaluating, what am I thinking? Well, it's what am I feeling, which then comes back to what was I just thinking? Like, oh, all of a sudden I'm sad. Oh, because I was just thinking about, that time I did that one thing and it made me sad. And recognizing that thought and then switching it is so powerful. I remember, like we said, I have 6 kids, and I remember when they were little, we would take these Sunday drives and go visit different things around. And we would always come home and I would be in such a horrible mood. And it would be, I don't care what time it was, everyone was being sent to bed for the rest of the night because mom had it. And I remember one Sunday just being on a drive, and my kids were just being kids. They weren't doing anything awful. They were just, I had a teenager all the way down to a toddler, and they were just in the back seat, just enjoying each other's company, which of course meant they were a little bit loud. And I just remember sitting in the front, getting more and more upset. And I finally stopped and listened to what I was thinking. And what I was thinking was, these kids are so obnoxious. Why can't they just be quiet? And I was thinking that over and over, like subconsciously, this is what's playing through my mind. And I thought, this cannot be. Like, they're not obnoxious. They're being themselves. They're enjoying each other's company. We're having this great drive. This is only affecting me. And in that moment, I stopped that thought and I had to replace it. And I replaced it with, I don't even remember, it's been so many years, but it was something like, I love my kids and I find joy in them. And I just started repeating that to myself. And the rest of the drive home, I felt better and better and better as more time passed. And I remember getting home that night in a happy mood for the first time. I was happy. We came in, we played a game together as a family. Everybody went to bed at a normal time instead of mom sending him to bed for the night at 4 o'clock and not knowing what was going on. And that changed my life, that experience, that I had to start realizing what was going on in my head. I had to catch those thoughts and I had to stop them. And I do that by just flipping them around and repeating that positivity to myself over and over and over again.
Wow.
When I've taught my kids, I heard this years ago when actually I was doing the body code certification, and the emotion that is really good to go to when you notice a negative emotion come in, like anger, sadness, grief, any of it. Of course, we need to process through those, but to choose either to be in a place where you can process them and actually process them. But if you're having to respond to somebody else, rather than responding with anger or fear or whatever might come out, respond with curiosity. And I thought that was a switch for me. And I've taught my kids that. And my adult kids have come back and said, Mom, I'm so glad you taught me to respond with curiosity, because there's been so many moments in my life where I've wanted to retaliate against something that someone did to me. And the curiosity helped me step back, take a second look at what was going on, realize why I was feeling the anger or the fear, and be able to respond in an appropriate way. So mindset is huge. And there's a lot of people when I've foot zoned who just don't think they're going to get better. And that is sad. That's a hard place to be. And Rachel, I love what you said at the beginning. You're like, what if it's all in your head? Well, that's great. I don't care. If it works, right? But no, your mind is powerful. It's a supercomputer, and the things that you feed it, it will figure out how to make that happen.
Wow. And really recognizing we're all on this journey as well. And so if our journey is that we are a victim, that's our choice. And I know that I've been in that space as well. And then I've been in good spaces, and it's kind of a journey. I love what you're talking about noticing. First you have to notice what you're noticing, right? What is presenting itself? How are you feeling about it? What are you thinking about it? And then learning and then doing. I think that's really wonderful. And I want to ask you, because we're talking on this podcast about living a life on purpose, how do you feel that your how do you feel that this putting this service together, this study and this coaching together, how do you feel like that is helping others to live more purposefully?
Who's first? I'll go. Okay. So I love the name of your podcast, Living Life on Purpose. And it really has made me think, because I feel like I've been one in my life who has lived my life with purpose. Like I can get up and say, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this, and I can go forward with purpose. But stepping back and taking a broader view and be like, am I actually living my life on purpose? Like, what is my bigger goal here? What am I doing? And I feel personally like I've done that with raising my kids for a lot of years. That was my passion. And now my kids are kind of on the, I'm not old. Let's remember that. But my kids are old. They're getting so old that they're leaving the house. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to put this information out there. And it's exciting to me, because as I see people shift and take those steps into more natural ways and start to see how they affect them, their lives change. And I've been able to see that firsthand in so many instances. It's like a thrill for me. It's really exciting to be this little stopping point for them on their journey, this little piece of the puzzle that they can maybe gather a little bit of good information here and apply it to what they already know and be able to move forward with better health. It's just I don't know. I can't explain it. It just fills me up, you know? I love it. I love to be here. I'm really excited to share this with other people. So,
That's so cool. Jen, how about you? What are you thinking about?
I agree with all of that. We are just so thrilled. I've been so grateful over the years for the little puzzle pieces people have put into my life and the difference that they have made. And I just feel like every day knowing what our purpose is. And every day it can be a different, but just being a wife, being a mother, those have been my highest callings, my highest purposes. But I love that God allows me to have other dreams and goals and purposes as well. And so I just get up every day and okay, what's the next right thing? And I let him lead me. And he has led me to amazing places and to amazing people. And like, I'm just so thrilled to be on this journey with Jennah and to see the lives that we're able to change.
Oh, that's so cool. I always end with this question, and I want to ask you specifically, not generally. I want to know something really specific that you are doing today to live your life on purpose. And I'll give you my little example from today. Today, I really purposefully, uh, so I took Preston to physical therapy this morning, and instead of just scrolling on my phone, I purposefully wrote down everything that was in my mind and just put it on paper. And that was the thing I did today to live my life on purpose. So I'm really curious from you, Jennah and Jen, what is something that you are doing today to live your life on purpose?
well, my day usually starts out on the farm for a couple of hours. And this time of year is a lot of weeding because the planting's all done. So actually, I'm going to say two things because I spend so many hours weeding. I'm going to give a shout out to weeding. I weeded 2 full rows of corn that are 100 feet each.
Yay!
So that I talked about corn earlier, and that's probably why, because it's on my mind. Because I weeded the corn this morning, and then I thought, well, um, a joy in the morning always is when you can harvest something. And we have raspberries coming on. So I went and picked our little cup of raspberries. We don't get a ton, especially this time of year. They're just coming on and they're tiny. And I picked a cup and I put some with my breakfast. And I took the rest to my husband because he works so hard. I wanted him to have a little uh, cup of the raspberries that I picked. So
Oh,
Oh,
that
that's
makes me
great.
so happy. Yeah, Jen, how about you?
For me, it's yoga. I love doing yoga, and that is the one commitment to myself that I'm able to keep every day. And let me just tell you, I am still beginner yoga. And some days, depending on what's going on, it's yin yoga, where I just can sit and stretch. We're not talking power yoga, we're not talking anything big, but I make that commitment to myself that every day, no matter what, I get my yoga in to clear my mind, stretch my body, and be able to just move forward knowing that I kept that commitment to myself that day.
Oh, isn't that so good that living our life on purpose doesn't have to be these grand gestures of saving the world, but they can be just a small step in compassion and kindness for ourselves and for others. So I love that. I have loved this conversation. Am I'm so grateful for how you've taken your experience because Jen, I've known you for years and yeah, we were always seekers together. And I feel like we were sharing ideas and recipes and just, dropping kids and picking kids up. And so I've seen you on this journey. And so I love how you've kind of packaged this in a way that's very balanced and helping people live in a natural way. And so I appreciate this so much. So you can find Jennah and Jen over at DIYholisticsolutions.com. And are you on social media?
We are. We're
yes, we
on
have. Yeah, go ahead.
Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and they can find us under Holistic Solutions. And we have great stuff out there on social media and on our website. It's full of classes. And maybe people aren't ready to jump in with classes, but we have blog posts and just so many free things people can jump in there that will really benefit them and bless their lives.
Well, thank you for taking the time and energy to take the things that have helped you and your families and making it accessible to others. That is wonderful. I applaud you. And again, I'm just so grateful for this conversation. So, we will link up to you and make sure people can find you and all of your information. I'm excited to look more into it myself. And so this has been a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Rachel.
much for having us.
Think you're amazing in what you're doing too. So yeah, just thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. You can check out more over at rachelegbert.com. Your life is too precious to live just by chance or by default. I want you to live your life on purpose. We will see you next time.